Okay, so with chemical exfoliation, what we want to look at is something that's going to be staying on the skin. Think of your skin cells as building blocks. So we have two different options. If we're going to use something physical, we can talk about that in another video. That's going to treat the skin one way. But let's talk about chemically what it does. Let's pretend we have these building blocks and we have mortar in between. A chemical exfoliant is going to get in between the cells and it's going to dissolve the mortar. Well, how do we know which type of a solvent, chemical, are we going to use to dissolve that mortar? It can be different for everyone, and I always recommend consulting with a professional skincare esthetician about any of this. But just for the sake of today, we're going to talk a little bit about the quick refiner and the mandelic acid for face and for eyes. The quick refiner is a multi-acid blend, mostly alpha hydroxy acids. Those help pull water to them as well. So generally speaking, we don't get as much irritation, we don't see as much redness, and we don't have as much flaking, unless we way overuse the product. So we want to start off slowly with this. Anytime you bring in a chemical solution, we want to start 2 times a week. Wait 3 days in between. So Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, those are great times to bring in your new chemical exfoliants. And what you're going to do is, this is a gel, and all we have to do is on clean skin, apply the product, and we're actually going to let it sit. It's going to dry down and fully absorb. It smells fantastic. We don't wipe it off. We don't remove it. Follow the instructions. Again, if we use this too much, we're trying to dissolve too much mortar and causing those bricks to fall off too quickly, and it's going to create a lot of irritation. This is fantastic for brightening the skin, just all over, rejuvenation and exfoliation. If you have a little bit of impaction or congestion, it works great. For someone though that maybe has more acne issues, a little bit more pigmentation, mandelic can be a lot nicer option. So I've grabbed this one from Face Reality because it's also a great price point. This is something that is really going to help hold more water to it. It's going to brighten up the skin a lot more. Stays on the same way. And lastly, we can't just use any of these around our eye area. So there are special formulations like the Quick Refiner for Eyes from BioElements that can be used specifically for the eye area. They're designed with acids that have a larger molecule, meaning it's a lot less irritating. So brief overview, that's what we're looking at with the chemical exfoliant. I will also say that some people treat vitamin A as a chemical exfoliant. It can get a little tricky because it does fall in that category, but it does work differently. So you will want to ask questions about that. That is a more detailed product, and I give very specific instructions on how to bring that in. So let's talk physical exfoliation. There's different types of physical exfoliants. I've got 2 here with me. We have one called Pumice Peel from BioElements. You can see that it comes in a jar and it has a little thicker consistency. Looks like it would be a pretty gentle product, but it's actually loaded with ground pumice, so it's going to be very strong. Think manual microdermabrasion. Not a professional microderm, this is a manual microderm. There are several companies that make something similar, so we'll talk about who that's good for. As an alternative, sometimes we can use something like this product from Face Reality, the antioxidant scrub. This is actually a cleanser and an exfoliating bead all in one. This one uses a propylene glycol bead, I believe, and it's much more cushiony, so it's more rounded, it's softer, it's not as aggressive of a physical exfoliant, meaning you should be able to use this more times through the week. Again, check with your esthetician. Now, the pumice peel or the manual microdermabrasion, I typically only recommend this to be used 1 time a week, just because it's fairly aggressive. And you can mix this with a cleanser. There's different ways that you can use it, but for the most part, you want to clean your skin and we want to apply the product. And then what we're going to do is buff this into the skin. Again, it looks very, very gentle, but if we scrub the skin for too long, too much, use too much pressure with our fingers, it's going to be very aggressive. Notice that I'm using these little circular motions. So use the pads of your fingers and barely touch the skin, applying only more pressure if you feel like you can tolerate that. 1 time a week is generally acceptable for this. If it's good for you to use more than 1 time a week, your esthetician will let you know. And we massage this around the entire face, avoiding the eye area for 1 minute. And then all we're gonna do is take a very gentle washcloth. I have a 4x4, and we can rinse off and remove the product. You do wanna make sure all residue is removed. And I would recommend with this to go in with something very gentle, and now is the time to hydrate our skin. So hyaluronic acid, beta glucans, and moisturizers are gonna be your best friend after using a physical exfoliant that takes off those top layers of dead skin cells that can make us look just a little dull.